Hello and welcome. I'm Selin Nasi, London representative of Ankara Policy Center. I would like to welcome you all to our webinar, Finding Commercial Rationality in Natural Gas Projects in the Eastern Mediterranean, co-hosted by Ankara Policy Center and Global Trade Forum. For those who are not familiar with, Ankara Policy Center is an independent think tank based in Ankara, founded by retired ambassadors after working for many years in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to contribute Turkey's position in international affairs. Global Trade Forum serves as an industrial think tank in Istanbul that aims to build global exposure for the Turkish market and make it more fertile for the next industrial revolution. We have distinguished speakers with us today, joining from Israel and Turkey. Let me briefly introduce them. We have Ambassador Mikhail Harari. He served in key positions in the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He served as the head of the International Bureau in the Center for Political Research. He also served as a deputy head of policy planning. Formerly, he served as an ambassador to Cyprus between 2010 to 2015. Currently, he's a policy fellow at MITWIM and a member of Diplomat and Consultant on Energy and Foreign Policy. We have Ambassador Mithat Rende. Ambassador Rende is the former ambassador and permanent representative of Turkey to the OECD. He served as chairman of the executive committee of the OECD. Formerly, he held the position of Director General for Multilateral Economic Affairs at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and currently he is the board member of the Industrial Development Bank of Turkey. We have Eytan Cohen Yanarocak, who is a Turkey expert at the Jerusalem Institute for Strategy and Security and the Moshe Dayan Center for Middle Eastern and African Studies at Tel Aviv University. He teaches at Tel Aviv University and at Ben Gurion University of Negev. Dr. Yanarocak is the editor of Turkiscope, Insights on Turkish Affairs. In 2015, he was awarded the Dan David Prize Scholarship in the category of Past, Retrieving the Past Historians and their Sources. And he is the author of The Evolution of the Turkish School Textbooks from Atatürk to Erdogan, which came out in 2022. Before we get started, just a few housekeeping rules. After the first round of questions, I'm going to open the floor to questions from the audience. You are all familiar with Zoom, I assume. We have a chat box. You can share your comments and questions there, and I will do my best to raise them in order. I shall now give the floor to Ambassador Rende, who would like to say a few words as a representative of Ankara Policy Center. Ambassador Rende, the floor is yours. Could you please unmute yourself?
Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Nasi.
We still cannot hear you. Can you?
I can hear you.
Can you hear me? Yes. Can you hear me?
I cannot hear you.
I can hear
you. Now I hear you.
Yes. Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Nasi. Let me start by expressing my most sincere thanks to Ankara Policy Center. I am a member proud of being also a member of the Ankara Policy Center, and to the Global Trade Forum for having organized this timely webinar. And thank you, Dr. Nasi, for having accepted to moderate this important event. Let me say a few words about Turkish-Israeli relations and then leave it with you. First of all, traditional good relations between Turkey and Israel have suffered major setbacks during the last decade. And the harsh rhetoric at leadership level adversely affected even the situation. But people-to-people relations remain strong, and trade remains strong. In fact, I was told by our experts that in 2013 the foreign trade volume reached $9.5 billion. It was $2 billion only in 2010. So in 13 years' time, apparently the business community achieved a great deal. Now, what do we have at this point in time? In view of the dramatic changes in the region and the diminishing interest of Biden, while China remained quite assertive together with Russia. So, given their policies and activities, both Turkey and Israel, they reassessed the situation and repositioned themselves and decided to normalize relations. I think there was also a major policy shift on the part of the Turkish leadership to break the isolation in the region, and eventually they decided to normalize relations not only with Israel but also with Egypt, with Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. So then, what is missing here as regards Turkish-Israeli relations is trust. Trust and confidence. One can say it is in short supply for the time being, but of course, if there is a will, then this trust and confidence could be restored, and we need to do that. And I think what can be done, maybe a new page should be opened, a new page, and a positive agenda should be set, and we can start by dealing with less controversial issues. And one of the areas is, of course, energy. And today's topic is energy cooperation. So energy is a force multiplier, by the way. Just let me underline that energy is a force multiplier, and it is a serious geostrategic security matter. And it would be in the interest of both countries if they can engage with each other and try to tap the potential together by realizing major projects. So let me leave it here, Dr. Nasi, and to you, and wait until you have put the questions to us as regards energy and other issues.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for giving us an overview of bilateral relations and the significance of energy cooperation. I would like to turn to you, Ambassador Harari. As we all know, Russian invasion of Ukraine has led to a significant shift in energy security strategies across Europe. Western countries have moved to reduce their dependence on Russian energy imports. And in this backdrop, the East Med has gained a newfound relevance. Surprisingly, however, the United States backed away from the contentious East Med gas pipeline project last year, citing commercial and environmental concerns. If materialized, it would have been the longest and the deepest pipeline ever built. So it wasn't an easy sell all along. Another alternative is to carry Israeli gas to Europe via Turkey through subsea pipelines. Indeed, the two countries were about to ink a deal back in 2017, following a normalization deal in 2016. However, the project was eventually shelved as bilateral relations suffered another blow and the normalization process came to a halt. My question is, what has changed now that the pipeline project is back on the table, or it seems to be? And more importantly, will the parties involved not only talk the talk, but walk the walk this time around?
Thank you very much, Dr. Nasi. Thank you very much for the invitation to this distinguished panel and for a very much actual, I would say, timely topic. Actually, you gave a lot of, major part of the answer with your introduction. As you said, the attractiveness of the East Med by Europe following, let's say, the war in the Ukraine has, I would say, shifted, the attention that, okay, what can be done? From the Israeli point of view, I think that Israel sees itself, based on the developments in the East Med in the last 10, 12 years, in a better position strategically, let's say, to consider in a comfortable way its exports policy. Now, add to it, of course, that the elections in Cyprus, Greece, and Turkey has ended. So it is about time, let's say, to discuss seriously different kind of options. And of course, as Ambassador Rende mentioned, the improved relations between Israel and Turkey, which enable, I suppose, nowadays, let's say, to consider options, including, of course, a Turkish angle. Basically, Israel, as far as I can say, has decided to explore or to go for another export route beyond what it has been exporting in the last few years. As you know, Israel is exporting its gas to Egypt and from Egypt and to Jordan. Based on what we said, I think that Israel now decided to explore what other export route is to go ahead. Initially, I suppose, there are three options nowadays. You are absolutely right, Dr. Nasi, that the East Med project is not very much feasible. I was not surprised by the American, let's say, clarification that this is not feasible. In my humble opinion, the East Med project was very much important strategically, not of necessity, not necessarily, let's say, commercially. But put it aside. I think there are three options here, initial options. The first one, of course, is the floating LNG, FLNG, next to the gas fields. In the past, it was discussed and it was removed out of the table because of its cost, of course. Nowadays, it is back. And actually, to be honest, the two relevant companies, Chevron and NewMed, formerly Delek, are, at least it is reported that they are in favor of, let's say, exploring this option. The second option is, of course, the Turkish angle, pipeline to Turkey, as you mentioned, and then going ahead. Basically, Turkey's interest or needs of energy are enormous, so it makes a lot of sense. And the third option, as it was, again, put back in the table just in the last few months, is via Cyprus, pipeline to Cyprus, and then LNG terminal in Cyprus, and then you can export it from wherever you want. Clearly, each option does have its own advantages and disadvantages, commercially and politically, strategically one. I think that when we examine these options, we should take into consideration maybe 3 or 4 relevant main points, I would say. The first one is the close relationship that Israel has developed in the recent 10, 12 years with Greece and Cyprus. Now, I emphasize it because from the Israeli point of view, this cooperation covers a lot of fields, not only commercial, political, security, etc., etc. For the time being, at present, there is no substitute, I would say, to these relations from the Israeli point of view. Clearly, to be honest, let's say, I suppose the Cypriot option, as I mentioned before, will not be able to go ahead without, I don't want to say, Turkish approval or Turkish angle or whatever, and I will mention it lately again when I approach the creative diplomacy that it is needed in a way. The second point, of course, is the strategic relations with Egypt that for Israel is extremely important. From Israel's point of view, it does want to strengthen, to keep those peace relations, and especially with Al-Sisi administration. The third point is the improved relations with Turkey, absolutely. And I think that there is much more understanding here in Israel of the importance to extend and to deepen these relations. As Ambassador Rende mentioned, there is a lack of confidence, trust. This is what I suppose both sides should be developing in the next few months. I suppose, Prime Minister Netanyahu will meet President Erdogan soon, either in New York, but clearly as well in Ankara. And the fourth point, I think, which is quite interesting, to be honest, this is the Israeli-Lebanese Maritime Agreement.
Now, I will come to that, Ambassador Harari. If you
you want me to put it aside?
For the other round, because it is a very critical component.
Okay. So I will only mention it at the headline, and I will keep it later on. But basically, just to say that it opens at least thinking of what can be done in the region. My last point is about the domestic situation in Israel. Now, I mention it not because we are going to speak about this, whatever we call it, revolution or not, I mean, but because the situation in Israel, politically speaking, is quite fragile. And in many ways, Israel is not as stable actor as it was seen, let's say, a year ago. Now, I'm not saying it means that it is impossible later to discuss seriously different kinds of strategic options, but I think that we should take it in consideration. Just look at the Israel-US relations, which are, well, quite suffering. I mean, I suppose next week Netanyahu will meet President Biden, but still. So just this is, as a kind of, I suppose, food for thought for the second round or rounds. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Harari. Ambassador Rende, I would like to turn to you and pose the same question in a different form. What is your take on the feasibility of this endeavor? As Ambassador Harari mentioned, stars have been aligned more or less. We have geopolitical context on our side. We have domestic politics. At least the elections are over. So both sides are willing to explore relations, deepen cooperation between the two countries. How does Turkey look at the feasibility, and where are we? Are we close to the deal? Because in the wake of Israeli Prime Minister's visit last month, which was postponed due to health issues, many anticipated an opening on the energy front. Was it a realistic expectation? And what can be done to further develop this project, this pipeline project, so as to perhaps involve or make it more compatible with Turkey's climate goals, because you are a high-level representative who also took part, who was involved in the climate talks personally. So would you like to reflect on the feasibility of this endeavor, please?
Thank you. Well, in your introductory remarks, you rightly touched upon many important issues, but this pipeline project is not new, Selin Hanım. It has been with us. I remember that in 2010, when I was active at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we had too many delegations from Israel. Delegate people came. Then the Turkish side established consortiums, and then they traveled to, and even they started competing with each other to cut the deal. It was not possible. Both sides, I think, both sides were quite maximalist, and the gas prices were not so helpful. They were not at today's level, of course. So this project is an important one for Turkey. It remains so, and I think the Turkish Energy Minister, Mr. Albayrak, is planning to visit in the period ahead Israel upon the invitation of the Israeli Energy Minister. Probably he will take also his experts in the delegation. He should travel to discuss the feasibility of this project. In order to be feasible, this project must be bankable. And in order to be bankable, the Turkish side should be prepared to conclude with the Israeli authorities or the Israeli private companies a long-term contract. So a long-term contract, a purchasing contract, would make the project bankable. And then what the Turkish side has in mind, I think, to get 10 BCM, 10 billion cubic meters per annum of natural gas, maybe from Leviathan, I think from Leviathan directly either to Iskenderun or to Ceyhan ports. And in fact, it's between Haifa and Ceyhan or Iskenderun, it's only about 480 kilometers. The distance is quite encouraging. In fact, it's not like East Med project, which was about like 2,000 plus kilometers. So I would argue that this project, if there is a political will on both sides, it is environmentally sustainable and feasible. And the reason is simple, because natural gas, although yesterday Fatih Birol, the chief of the International Energy Agency, issued a statement where he argued that it is the end, it's the beginning of the end of fossil fuel era. But I would argue that natural gas will remain with us for the decades to come, because it is an intermediate energy source, and it is a good friend of renewables, because we need to have a good energy basket, and natural gas could replace a heavily polluting coal and other fossil fuels. So this is why natural gas will remain with us. Turkey is a huge market, and Turkey, with its infrastructure that it realized during the last decades, it's in a position to transfer gas from Turkey, from the East Mediterranean, easily through Greece and Bulgaria to Europe. So if Israeli side is willing to monetize their Leviathan and other gas fields in the period ahead, and I think they should do it. They should do it without further delay, because in the future we might have less consumption of gas and lower prices. So I hope that we can cut a deal. But of course, I agree with Ambassador Harari that it's not that easy. We need the political will, we need the support of the private sector, and we need the Turkish side to be prepared to sign a long-term contract. So then the financial institutions would be able to finance a $2 or $2.5 billion project. Thank you.
May I step in for a minute? You can accept this as a follow-up question, because we also have critics which revolve around the issues of the abundancy of gas reserves in the East Med, and then we have the unresolved conflicts which require creative diplomacy, and then the cost of necessary infrastructure to carry this gas. How do you find these criticisms? I mean, can we overcome these obstacles?
It's a complex situation, but as I said, we need to be quite creative and to engage the private sector. I think the private sector would be able to conclude deals with the relevant authorities. Of course, Ambassador Harari rightly said that of course he calls Cyprus, we say the Greek Cypriots. And the Greek Cypriots would not be able to act alone and conclude major agreements about like floating LNG. And also one maybe last point, Selin, the advantage of having a pipeline is also a kind of diversification of demand. It is demand diversification. So we understand that Israel has been trading through Egypt and in the form of LNG, monetizing their resources, but they would need maybe a kind of pipeline and send it through pipeline, because it would cost less, and then you would connect easily with major markets.
Thank you very much. Dr. Yanarocak, with your Turkish-Israeli background, you are an expert who we turn to when we really want to know what is really happening in Israel. Pipeline projects are considered vulnerable to political instability and security risks. Turkey's democratic backsliding in the last 2 decades, particularly the concentration of power and decision-making, has been a concern for investors, on the grounds that pipelines may be used as a political leverage in times of crisis. And looking at the political ups and downs in Turkish-Israeli relations in the last 2 decades, can we blame them? I don't think so. But from this perspective, how do you see the current state of Turkish-Israeli relations? Where are we with the normalization process? Can you please elaborate on the role of energy cooperation, whether or not it may forge closer ties between the 2 countries?
Okay, first of all, thank you very much for having me in this distinguished forum. And let me answer this question in such a way that I would do a comparison between 2 different normalizations. The current normalization that was launched last year by Israeli President Yitzhak Herzog and Recep Tayyip Erdogan together. And the other one that was launched in 2016 by Benjamin Netanyahu, our prime minister, with the Turkish prime minister Binali Yıldırım. So even these two sentences can explain to you the most important distinction point between the two normalizations. In the previous one, the Turkish president refrained from giving any pictures next to an Israeli leader, next to an Israeli flag. But now we are seeing that Israeli President Herzog is, he's enjoying, he's experiencing a king's welcome in the capital city of Ankara at the presidential palace. So therefore, I believe that the current normalization is far different from the previous one, but it is still very fragile. I would like to remind you that we overcame two Ramadans and one operation in the Gaza Strip, which was limited only against the Palestinian Islamic Jihad terrorist organization. And we may also see another large-scale operation in the future. We don't know, because in the Middle East, unfortunately, everything is not very predictable. So in case of a total war between Hamas and Israel, and maybe even in our northern border with Hezbollah terrorist organization. So I'm very curious, how would the current Turkish leadership would react? So this is a huge question mark at the heads of the Israeli decision makers. And let me tell you, if we are talking about a problem of trust, like lack of trust in the relations, I mean, I assume that this is the most important issue. And you also made a very important comment, Dr. Nasi. You highlighted the probability that a state can use the pipeline as a leverage to pressure another country. Yes, Israel will pump the gas, but at the end of the day, on the other side of the pipe, the Turkish side will sit. So let us imagine, in case of an escalation, can President Erdogan close the taps to pressure Israel? I mean, unfortunately, we cannot answer this question with only one word. No, we cannot answer, because it is a probability that we cannot say that no, such a thing will not happen. So these are the most important issues that are constituting a very important headache for the Israeli decision makers. In principle, we give very much importance to our relations with Turkey. Turkey became the ever Muslim state that recognized our sovereignty in this land in 1949. Now we all cherish the Abraham Accords, and we are always talking about the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Morocco, Saudi Arabia. But let us not forget that the first Muslim country that we had proper relations was Turkey, and we did not sign a peace treaty with Turkey to have proper relations. We never fought with Turkey. This is a unique relationship that must be safeguarded, okay? I do understand the importance of the bilateral relations, but I also, as a researcher, as an expert on Turkey, that who is based in Israel, I also have to tell these kind of realities. And of course, apart from the complexities, I also would like to highlight some optimistic facts. For instance, if I'm not mistaken, like a few days ago, top advisor to Azerbaijani President Hikmet Hajiyev paid a very important visit to our capital, Jerusalem. And there he delivered a very important statement that he offered a trilateral cooperation between Israel, Turkey, and Azerbaijan. And I truly believe that such a cooperation, such a trilateral cooperation, will basically provide the three states a trilateral interdependence. So it would be maybe harder for the Turkish side to adopt a harsh, critical policy vis-a-vis the state of Israel, because at the end of the day, the Azerbaijanis would be also in the equation. So I'm looking at Azerbaijan in this equation as an insurance policy. For me, it's a win-win-win situation. At the end of the day, Israel and Turkey did support Azerbaijan during the Nagorno-Karabakh war. Yes, it was not a planned move by the two different capitals. Each capital had its own reason. But at the end of the day, now we are seeing that Azerbaijan can act as a perfect glue between Israel and Turkey. I said glue and not a bridge, because Israel and Turkey are that close to each other. So we do not need a bridge, but we need a glue to be sticked, okay? And regarding the energy, first of all, again, when we are looking at the previous normalization, we will remember that the first ministerial visit took place between Israeli Energy Minister Yuval Steinitz and then Turkish Energy Minister Berat Albayrak. It means that from Turkey's point of view, the most important issue is number one, energy, and second is tourism. For instance, I was the translator of the Turkish tourism minister Nabi Avcı during his ministerial visit in Israel. So I did witness the importance of tourism as well, but let us now stick to energy. Now, also in the new normalization, the Turkish side wanted to launch a ministerial level visit to Israel. Maybe you may remember, together with Turkish Foreign Minister Mevlut Çavuşoğlu, the Turkish energy minister had to come here to meet with his Israeli counterpart. But this time, the Israeli side was more cautious, and as far as I understand, maybe Ambassador Harari knows better than me in this case, the Israeli side did not allow the Turkish side to come also, not only with the foreign ministry, but also with the energy ministry. So it was then limited only to the foreign minister Çavuşoğlu's visit, but energy sector was put aside. So it was a clear message from Israel: yes to normalization. We truly believe in normalization. We do believe in our relationship with Turkey. But because all of the things that we have experienced during the last decade, and because of what we have experienced during the last fragile normalization that unfortunately collapsed, now, if we would like to succeed, let us, proceed step by step, slowly. Let us build these trust-building measures. Of course, this will create diversification of energy sources. This will, of course, provide economic growth to both countries. And also, from a Western angle, if the Israeli natural gas would be exported to Turkey, then Turkey's dependence on the Iranian and the Russian gas would be decreased. So it is, of course, a Western interest to see Turkey, less in contact with Iran and with Russia. But now I'm opening a parenthesis. When I'm seeing Mr. Erdogan in Sochi, and when he is declaring his desire to work together with the Russians also for the second nuclear reactor in Sinop, so I'm very cautious that this Israeli gas, can it really decrease Turkey's dependency to Russia and Iran, because Turkey is willingly trying to be more dependent to these countries. So this is a huge question mark. And let us not forget, Mr. Harari already mentioned that while we had this problematic relations with Turkey, Israel formed perfect relations with Republic of Cyprus and Greece, and both of these countries are considered as the members of European Union, and they are not parties like Hamas terrorist organizations. So we do not have any problems of legitimacy in engaging such relations. And I truly believe that if Israel will be a partner of this pipeline, we must get the blessing of the Greeks and the Greek Cypriots. Of course, I really wish, as a person who was born in Turkey, that the northern Turkish Cypriots would be also included in this equation. But since I'm not a Israeli Foreign Ministry official, so my comments would be only personal. And that's why I'm very skeptical that this pipeline would be an answer that can deliver us a remedy. I truly believe that maybe the LNG option to Turkey would be now is very feasible.
On the short term.
And I will stop here if you like, and if you will have any other question, of course, I would love to answer. Apologies if I talked so much, but you know.
Can I jump in with a quick point, 2 points? In fact, because Dr. Yanarocak made a sweeping statement as regards the pipeline.
Okay, first of all, please step in.
Thank you. First of all, he suggested that Israel should get the permission of the Greek Cypriots and Greece.
Consent.
That is a bit questioning the sovereignty of Israel to deal with its natural resources. I found it, and then secondly, he mentioned about certain circles that they are questioning the viability of this pipeline. Because Turkey, under some deteriorating situations, that might turn off the tap. Normally, and this I should underline, that Turkey's track record as regards its commitments with respect to oil and natural gas is quite strong. It honored all its commitments, even in times of crisis. And if there will be one side to turn off the tap, it will be the supplier. The supplier could turn off the tap. And a case in point is the decision of Russia on the 1st of January in 2006, and then in 2009, when they decided to turn off the tap. So it was the supplier who prevented the flow of gas. This is why I don't take this argument as a serious one. But of course, it is up to the Israelis, our friends, to monetize, and I think it would be in their interest to monetize in the near future their gas fields, because of the dramatic changes we see with regard to the climate crisis and other things. So let me stop here and maybe.
Maybe we should focus instead on the role interdependency plays in this equation. If the interdependency between Turkey and Israel increases thanks to a prospective deal on an energy pipeline, then this will decrease the risk of escalation of conflicts between the two countries, and somehow may contribute to regional stability. And as far as I understand, even though there are certain risks, as long as there is the economic profitability in the commercial wise, then Israel is willing to undertake the political risks. This is what I understood from Dr. Yanarocak's presentation. I would like to turn to you again, Ambassador Harari, and come back to the Lebanon deal with maritime border deal between Turkey and Israel and Lebanon. The East Med, as we discussed, has an untapped potential of energy resources, but the region is also beset with armed conflicts and political disputes. The United States spearheaded gas diplomacy to advance separate gas deals between Israel and Jordan, Israel and Egypt, and the most recent one is, as we mentioned, between Israel and Lebanon. And there are several critics against the deal. I mean, it's not working properly, this and that. Lebanon is an important case here because even if the two sides decided to leave their political grievances aside and agreed on a boundary accord which allowed them to explore their energy resources in contested waters. So can we apply the deal between Israel and Lebanon to perhaps as a model to lead to a breakthrough in Cyprus?
Thank you very much. In a way, yes. I think the Israel-Lebanese Maritime Agreement is extremely important because it has proved that nevertheless, Israel and Lebanon do not recognize each other. Nevertheless, they are still in enemy situations, etc., etc. They were able to take advantage of a certain circumstances where both interests have met from different, of course, reasons, very much different reasons, and the international and regional circumstances with, let's say, the mediation of the Americans, where the Americans did have, of course, an interest to go ahead with this agreement. Now, this agreement, basically, the beauty of it, okay, nevertheless, there are, of course, criticism, is that both sides were able to exclude other topics which are in conflict between them and to focus only on one topic, important enough, let's say, in order to serve their both interests. Now, the model, in a way, and I don't want to exaggerate too much with the model because there are differences and similarities are always, tricky. But the so-called model is that if we are able, in a certain conflict, once there are, let's say, beneficial interests, let's say, to focus on one issue, which is important enough for the relevant players. And the one issue nowadays is natural gas without solving the whole conflict, okay? In Israel, we don't like anymore to use the phrase, interim agreement, okay? It does have, but an ad hoc agreement in order to enable this to go ahead. I'll give you another example. There is a talk about the Gaza Marine gas field, the Palestinian gas field facing Gaza. Egypt is very much in favor of going ahead with this field because it does benefit its own interest. Initially, this is what was reported, Israel was positive about the idea. How Israel and Egypt will be able to negotiate this way or another with let's say, non-state actor like Hamas and with the PA and to tailor this agreement, well, I'm not very much optimistic, but at least this is on the table right now, and there is an ongoing efforts to do it. And surprisingly, again, this present government gave some kind of green light to the Egyptians. So basically, I think the importance of this agreement is by giving an idea or a trigger, I would say, for creative diplomacy. Thank you.
Harari, you are preemptively answering all my questions on my list.
Oh, sorry for that. Sorry.
I'm going to come back to that.
You should stop me, please.
Gaza offshore decision. But now I have a question for Ambassador Rende. I also have it on my list, but one of our participants posed this question in the chat box, so I'm officially opening the floor to questions from the audience, and I encourage everyone to send their comments and questions, please do, to make this an engaging conversation. Korhan Özkılınç asks, it was a surprise at the G20 summit in India, where the India, Middle East, Europe corridor was announced. If this intention is realized, could it be that this action without Turkey will drive apart relations between Israel and Turkey, also in the context of energy corridor in the Eastern Mediterranean? Ambassador Rende.
Thank you. Well, this is an idea. The corridor is still to be worked out, and it was devised and prepared as an alternative to Belt and Road initiative of China. So whether it would be materialized or not, it remains to be seen. It's a very ambitious project, and probably they opted for Israel. And then from there through the Mediterranean, because they thought that Syria is not the right place for at this point in time to cross. Who knows? But of course, I believe that that the Turkish president will meet is likely to meet Joe Biden in New York in the margin of the General Assembly, United Nations General Assembly meetings, and this issue will be raised. I understand, but of course, Turkey is not without alternatives. Turkey's location is well established, well acknowledged, and this is why, in fact, it is regarded as the place for natural gas trading center in the Eastern Mediterranean, and because of its location, because of its infrastructure, and because of its industrial base. So if things get better in the period ahead, and if Turkey can perform better and create the necessary conducive business environment, I think there will be more alternatives, including the Chinese Road and Belt Initiative. It's important to encourage the investors, foreign direct investors. For Turkey, it is of utmost importance. We cannot save enough money. We need to lure foreign investors, and hopefully we can make it. But it seems that it's not that easy under the present circumstances.
My curiosity here, I would like to ask, even if it's in the early stages of in the making of this project, do you think there is a political preference in this decision, in this announcement, that which, you know, exclusion of Turkey is political? Because let's all remind us that the East Med Gas Forum, Turkey perceived the emergence of that platform as a hostile power bloc aiming to circumvent Turkey. And is it now what we see is a comeback of an East Med Gas Forum in another shape?
May I?
Who would like to, please?
Yes. Oh, sorry. I mean,
it's highest turn, if you don't mind, Ambassador Harari, because he's been waiting his turn very patiently, and then we can come back to you and have your response as well.
Since we have here these two senior gentlemen, so of course I'll wait.
Eitan, please.
I'm the most
Eitan.
junior here, and
please, Eitan, go ahead.
I'm aware of it. I totally respect to both.
In Turkey, we offer water to the young, so I think this is...
That's right. So Eitan, please go ahead, Eitan. We'll follow the Turkish way.
Yeah. So let me answer this question in such a way. We should look at the source of the starting point of this route. It is originated in India, and this whole enterprise, I think it is very much rooted in this initiative, I2U2, India, Israel, United Arab Emirates, and the United States. So it is a very political formation. First of all, we should see it, okay? And besides that, we also have to underline the importance of the Abraham Accords. And nowadays, now we are talking about it out loud, which is a revolution in the Middle East, that Saudi Arabia is going to normalize its relations with the state of Israel. So this is a very big news. It's a matter of time if we're gonna see it under this current leadership of Biden administration, or in the aftermath of the U.S. elections. My point of view that Mohammed bin Salman will never give this present to Joe Biden, and that's why we will see artificial problems. And in my opinion, Mohammed bin Salman is waiting for Donald Trump. It's a huge question mark whether Donald Trump will be able to become a U.S. president because of the ongoing trials in the U.S. That's another issue. But if I was Mohammed bin Salman, yes, I would love to maximize my own interests while waiting for Donald Trump, because Biden even did not shake his hand. You may all remember that they did this punch thing in Riyadh. So in my opinion, it was incredible. Anyways, if I'm going back to that issue, I think the Indians already managed to start this initiative with the United Arab Emirates, then with Saudi Arabia, then with the Kingdom of Jordan, and then with Israel. And after Israel, instead of going to Turkey, this is going to Greece. So here, I do not think that this is because of Israel. I think this is because of Turkey's foreign policy vis-a-vis Pakistan. And I truly believe that Turkey's very pro-Pakistani stance really disturbs New Delhi. And if you're gonna look at New Delhi's foreign policy patterns, you will gonna see that the Indians systematically are trying to strengthen Turkey's adversaries. For instance, in my opinion, the most important example is Armenia. Indians are selling arms to Armenia. Of course, you may say that how come Armenia can pose a threat against Turkey or not, but it's against the Turkish interests at the end of the day, because Armenia, we all know that is at war, is a hostile country of Azerbaijan and so forth. So I truly believe that Turkey's Pakistan policy is the main obstacle for Turkey's inclusion in this initiative. And that is why Greece was chosen. And so this is this is what I think. Of course, you may disagree, but I truly believe that maybe it's less profitable without Turkey. But again, this is very much designed on political choices.
Ambassador Harari, let's hear you.
Very briefly, this is very political one, purely political one. B, the main address is China. It's not neither Turkey nor Greece nor whoever. It's just China. And this is a ambitious plan which will not be implemented, or I hope it will be implemented, but this is very much, way ahead. And the third point concerning the Israeli-Saudi, let's say, adventure, pay attention that Israel was mentioned in order, in my opinion, to send a message to Israel that if you behave yourself, okay, or if it is possible to go ahead, here what you can get. So I don't think that the Turkish angle here is something, deliberate move, or the absence of Turkish angle is deliberate move to exclude Turkey. I don't think so.
Then
the address is purely China, purely China.
May I jump in? I support Ambassador Harari's points and views in this regard. It's a political project. It is so designed to counter China, to encircle China, to counter China. And also, we should take what they said about this project with a pinch of salt.
Thank you very much.
So the exclusion of Turkey is because of the Belt and Road Initiative is passing from Turkey. Is this what you're trying to say? I want to learn from you. I'm not trying to challenge you.
It's too, Dr. Yanarocak, it's too premature. It's too early to talk about this project.
Then why Turkey?
It is a political one.
So
it is a political project.
What is the rational answer?
Let's not talk all together.
No, it is devised. It is devised. It's not the first project which was formulated to counter China. The United States authorities, the U.S. administration is quite nervous because China achieved a great deal in the Gulf and in the Middle East by bringing together adversaries, and then they are quite active and they will continue to be assertive. So this is why I think it was a big mistake on the part of President Biden to say, well, now I have to deal with China, so the Middle East can wait and I don't need the oil anymore. And Israeli security, we can deal with it later. So this was, I think it was not very considerate of him. Yes, we can always do without such major grandiose projects. Turkey is a regional player like your country. And it's not the end of the world. I mean, we can always formulate a new let's say, alliances and cooperation with other countries in the region.
it would be a good idea if we organize another event in the near future on China's growing political and economic clout in the Middle East, perhaps.
Yes.
That gives us an idea. Hi, I would like to get back to you, and I saved a tough question for you. Now, Turkey has always been a champion of Palestinian rights in the region. As Ambassador Harari touched upon the issue, Israel is being ruled by the most conservative and rightist government in its history. Yet Israeli government silently gave nod to develop natural gas field off the coast of the Gaza Strip in June, in coordination with Egypt and the Palestinian Authority. So if we take into account the energy cooperation deals, the pipeline projects and everything, is there anything for Palestinians if the two countries, Turkey and Israel, reach a deal? Because as a two-state solution lost its steam, Israelis tended to focus more on ameliorating, improving life standards of Palestinians. So maybe we can link these two issues, and I would like to hear your opinion on this.
Okay. Indeed, it's a tough question, Selin, and
sorry about that.
Okay, I'll do my best to answer your question. So actually, when we are speaking about Palestinians, we have two different Palestinians. We have two different parties. The Palestinian Authority, which is located in the West Bank, is one actor, and Hamas, which is located in Gaza Strip, is another. So it really depends. Nowadays, the Israeli government is trying to strengthen the status of the Palestinian Authority by providing them arms, etc. And I also see here, I also would like to remind you the latest normalizations terms with Turkey. For instance, the West Bank Palestinians were given right to fly to Turkey via Israel's Uvda airport, which is located next to the city of Eilat. And that's of course a very important plus for the life conditions of the Palestinians. But since we do see constant terrorist attacks against the Israeli civilians nowadays, unfortunately nowadays we are here experiencing a peak against, a peak in the terrorist attacks against our civilians. So therefore, unfortunately, I cannot see a breakthrough here because of the very gentle security situation in the West Bank. And regarding the Gaza Strip, Hamas terrorist organization, as you know, they do not recognize the state of Israel. In every kind of occasion, they are doing their best to do unrest in Temple Mount in Jerusalem and also at the border with the Gaza Strip. And they are launching rocket attacks against Israel. So nowadays, if we are in a calm situation in the Gaza Strip, because we do not have a calm situation in the West Bank. So therefore, unfortunately, in case of the Palestinians, I do not really foresee a breakthrough, not in political terms and not in energy-related issues. Apologies.
Thank you very much. I have one comment in the Q&A section.
Ambassador Harari wanted to add something, Selin, maybe.
Sorry.
Yeah, I just don't know. Again, very briefly. I think that concerning the energy and Hamas, etc., the Israeli-Lebanese agreement has proved that Israel is very much able to negotiate, to put it this way, with non-state actor which does not recognize it, pending it does serve its own interest. I agree that with being skeptic about the possibility to go ahead because of the present Israeli government and because, and this is connected to the Turkish angle, I cannot see a situation where the calm situation on the ground will remain as it is with what's going on here in the region. And this is very much relevant to Israeli-Turkish relations. Now, this is not to say that it's impossible to get confidence between both sides, but that this is a real challenge. Without any substantial, let's say, I don't know what to say, even the word progress, an explosion must take place, not because I want it, because this is how I see it. So
the dilemma between security and development. It has
Sure.
always been all along.
Sure.
Which one shall we prioritize? Security or development, or which one helps the other to reconcile conflicts? I have questions and comments coming up. I would like to share it with you. Who would like to address, please do jump in. I will try to put them in order. One is from Herbert Regenbogen. He says, why not end the Cyprus dispute as a condition for the pipeline for peace, as tens of thousands on the island are dying to climate change and direct investments are required to offset the economical and energy security threats? This is more of a comment that we, I think, responded to. Another is from Arun Demir to Ambassador Harari. He says, how would Israel assess the Arab gas pipeline as an alternative route made the transportation of Israeli gas via Egypt, Lebanon, and Syria to Turkey, where Turkey has started to develop its ties with Israel, Syria, and Egypt at the same time? This is a good one. Maybe we should start.
Yeah. Well, this is a good one. Absolutely. Actually, it was. I don't want to say discussed, but it was taken in consideration. I mean, this is actually a brilliant idea. I mean, I remember many years ago, okay, there was a very nice article by Shaul Tzemach from the Tzemach committee who wrote about this pipeline. Can this pipeline be an alternative? I'm not sure. Can it be, let's say, and can it have added value? Maybe, but again, as Ambassador Rende mentioned, we have Syria there, and I'm not sure how much we can bypass or we can overcome or we can whatever the Syrian angle. So for the time being, I don't think this is very much feasible, to be honest.
Please.
Dr. Nasi, yes, with respect to the Arab pipeline, we discussed it a few months ago with our friends from Egypt and Israel. And in fact, one of our Egyptian friends, who was also a former ambassador or a retired ambassador, he strongly argued for the pipeline, and he thought that most of it is already there, so it's not destroyed. Maybe what is missing is about 100+ kilometers of of pipeline between Syria and Turkey. So of course the situation in Syria is problematic, but you never know. If the Israelis are not so forthcoming with respect to a gas pipeline beneath the Mediterranean, if they insist that they will unite and establish a stronger alliance with the Greek Cypriots, so be it. You should enjoy it. But if you think that Turkey, one of the major energy consumers and players in the region, we haven't had the time, Dr. Nasi, for talking about the gas trading hub of Turkey. Anyway, I don't know whether we have the time or not. But anyway,
we are short on time. But
we're
I'd like
short
to
on
hear
time.
your thoughts on Turkey's target aim of objective of becoming an energy hub in the region. Whether it is feasible or not, whether it is realistic or not, given the political obstacles, political uncertainties, and then economic changing conditions in the global gas market.
Well, Turkey, I mean, put aside energy cooperation. Turkey is in many aspects, in many fields, it's a natural partner, trading partner with Israel. There are too many. We haven't dealt with other fields, but the problem is trust. I agree with my friends that in times of crisis, if, for example, there would be an explosion and hundreds of people killed in Gaza or in West Bank, and then the Turkish leadership would overreact to what's happening or react, and then what comes out of it? Then there will be again strained relations and setbacks. So then we have to normalize again. But I hope that this is not a tool to resolve issues in the region.
Ambassador Rende, may I step in, if I may? Apart from the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, don't you think Turkey's friendly relations with Russia constitutes a greater maybe causing more resent among the Western partners that this energy hub objective is being criticized? I mean, because this will increase Europe's reliance on Russian gas, which they're trying to abandon in a way or decrease.
Well, Dr. Nasi, I'm not formulating the Turkish foreign policy as regards Russia. Of course, Russia is our neighbor. It's an important. They are an important power, and of course, nothing can be justified of what they have done, invading a neighbor. But I think our allies are also quite. I wouldn't say happy, but pleased that there is a dialogue between at least one member of NATO and Russia directly, and probably this dialogue should continue in the interest of the Western community too. If there are certain messages to be communicated, and then if Turkey is trying to act, let's say, to create this equidistance between Ukraine and Russia, I of course do not suggest that we support Russia or we should support Russia in this no at all. It cannot be justified. This invading a country and destroying the whole country it's not explicable. You cannot justify it at all. So, but I think it's not my area of interest or expertise, but we started with Turkish-Israeli relations, and then we ended up dealing with the global issues. And
because we have other actors who made inroads to the Middle East. Now we are, neighbors with Russia from the north, from the south. I have one last question, but it's more of a food for thought. As we are running out of time, I have to close the session. It is from Samantha Matthew Haydek. I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly. If I'm not, I apologize. She says, good evening to all, and thank you very much for the honor and thrilling joy to follow your vivid discussion. Merci. How can the big questions be solved regardless presidential empowerment decisions of an ever-changing future? How will a growing EU and a reforming Far East assemble with this fluently? And how will BRICS impact and conglomerate? How will COP28 achieve? What will COP28 achieve? Please feel free to jump in if you have any response to this all-encompassing comment and question.
We need 2 more hours to answer all the questions. I think, Nasi. But of course, I mean, let's face it that there is a new international order in the making. We're entering a multipolar world. We cannot ignore the fact that China is the rising power. It's challenging the hegemon, and we can see that the United States administration is trying to contain and encircle and control China by establishing various alliances, including NATO and in the south, AUKUS and other alliances. So I think it's quite difficult to answer all the questions put by the lady. But let me stop here, and maybe Ambassador Harari would like to say something about
any closing remarks.
Closing remarks.
Yeah, I don't think that I am able, let's say, to add to Ambassador. And I just would like to say, of course, that we are in the process of changing international order. Absolutely, yes. And I'm not sure that the Americans are away from the region, not because they want to be here, but because they are here. And this is but something to be discussed, of course. And I hope that Israel-Turkish relations will go ahead and deepen and strengthen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, and maybe I would only refer to the first part of her question. How can big questions be solved regardless presidential empowerment decisions of a ever-changing future? I'm not very optimistic. I mean, in every country that we are seeing, the presidents are very, very active, and I really don't think that we can get rid of those personalities, those figures. For instance, we are not talking about Turkey anymore. We are talking about Erdogan. We are not talking about Israel. We are saying Netanyahu. We are not saying Russia. We are saying Putin. The presidential brands are nowadays more, attracting the full lights. Full lights are on these charismatic figures. I think it's a worldwide phenomenon, and we will not be able to get rid of this phenomenon. Look at that. We can. I mean, we also see some positive impact of this phenomenon. For instance, Mohammed bin Salman and Mohammed bin Zayed, they are constructive players. But look what we are seeing in Russia and what we are seeing in China. So, I mean, I'm not very optimistic once again.
Thank you very much. Thank you, a sincere thank you to all of you for your wonderful contributions, and a big thank you to the audience who joined us today for your engaging questions and insightful comments. If I may, I'm closing this session, hoping to see you again soon in our future events. Take very good care, and Shana Tova in advance.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Happy New Year.